Hello, Raja.
Hi, Anne. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Nice.
Everybody is joining from their house, right? As
Yes.
well, like
Yeah.
remotely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first thing that is really important is to basically try to show you where to get information and where to find help. Because there is an immense number of features and possibilities and workflows, and it's not possible to cover for everyone in any amount of time. So the go-to website is rhino3d.com, and this is where you find all things Rhino. You know, if you want to download, for example, whether for Windows or for Mac, you can have an evaluation version, or if you already own a license, you can get the work in progress, which is version 7 basically, and all the new features on daily basis we release it. And you keep updating and getting all the latest features. So this is a fantastic place you know, resource, or you know, to get the latest and the greatest basically of Rhino, to go and get the work in progress software. It's pretty stable. We all use it, and yeah, so that's that. You know that your educational license, if you have one, it never expires, and you can keep it and work with it commercially even after you graduate. So before you graduate and before the price kind of jump, and if you are deciding to work with Rhino in the future, buy your license before you graduate so you have it, and then you know, you don't have to buy it at full price. The educational price is pretty cheap. So one of the things that is really nice is the link to the Learn part with lots of tutorials here. And you can see it kind of divided on the left side. But if you'd like to attend like on demand a class or a live class, you will find them here as well. I'd say one of the really greatest places to be if you have any question is to go to the community. We have discourse.mcneil.com, where we all hang out there, all the McNeil people on daily basis, you know, minute by minute. It's one of the windows we have open at all times. And we jump in to answer questions if no one does, but for the most part, usually the community help each other. So you can just, you know, go to the category you like. For example, you have a question about a grasshopper. You can just add a new topic, type the title. You know, usually if you type really good description of the problem you have with an example, there is a higher chance of people answering you, and usually it's within an hour or two you'll get an answer. Yeah, this is pretty active forum for McNeil, so it's a great place to be. So that's that's the resource I recommend for any questions or any technical support. Of course, you can always approach McNeil directly if you have any questions. So under support here in their website, you will see that you can email tech@mcneil.com. You can chat, and you will always get, or you can call directly during, you know, Pacific time zone, 8 to 5, and somebody will answer the phone if you want to call. But usually, you know, send an email if you know, feel you have privacy issues or proprietary of your models and you don't want to post it to the forum. You can ask technical support. So this is where you can find the general help. We talked about the help files in Rhino, which has a lot of information. But I also want to draw your attention to under Learn. You will see the level 1 manual and level 2 manual, these two. And they are basically this. Let me just put this. on the side here. And what is this is basically the beginner manual, and it's a training course, and it has everything about all the different features. What is Rhino? What is the interface? The modeling helpers, we talked about them, you know, all the snapping and ortho and what have you, precision modeling, lots of exercises there. So if you are a kind of student where you like to learn systematically, step by step, those level 1 and level 2, which has a lot more advanced topics like, you know, building surfaces or customizing your interface, or you want to model with history, and you know, all the advanced rendering features and blocks, for example. There you can learn also a lot of features there. So this is the official level 1 and level 2 Rhino training that you will find, you know, it's accessible. Another thing that I don't know if you noticed, I keep updating the document. It's a work in progress, but I'm at the end of most sections, there is some resources section where you can, for example, we talk about modeling aids here, and then there is a direct link to that section in the training about the modeling helpers. But also there is a link to tutorials. And most of these tutorials that I link to, if not all of them, are the ones that are done by McNeil. There are a tremendous number of other resources or tutorials done by non-McNeil people, but I need to get permission from them. But for now, the ones are created by McNeil. For example, this one is all about Gumball and how to use it. So you can make use of these, and if you find ones that you think were really good, please feel free to just add a comment and say, you know, I found this really nice resource, you know, and you want to share it. And I really want to encourage you. I didn't see a single, you know, I have a very clean document here. I didn't see a single comment added. Please don't be shy. And I was even thinking of, you know, just as a small token of appreciation, and also to encourage you to comment and review the material. Your assignment for next week will be to go through the document, make sure you understand all the concepts mentioned there. And if you find any typos or unclear things or missing information, add a comment. And you know, the one with the highest number of comments, I can allocate one-to-one session to 15 minutes or 20 minutes to address specific issues, modeling issues that you you know, that you need help with. So just please feel free to kind of read it through, make sure that all your questions about the foundation topics related to Rhino is covered, related to Rhino vocabulary is there, and you know, add your comments. So I'll love to see that. So that is as far as the you know, all the help and the resources that you can find and where to find them. Of course, the you know, the biggest help here is to be able to get your hands dirty and try to do things in Rhino directly. Do we all know how to navigate, how to rotate the view, how to be able to kind of zoom in and out in a model in general, like these basic things? Do we know how to find the commands either by typing? I really added something here to the document that you might find it interesting, because I mentioned it in passing last time. You know, we talked about the different ways and methods to access Rhino commands through the command line, through the menus, and through toolbars. But I also mentioned that you can have a custom access, and I have details about how to generate, you know, keyboard shortcuts and how to generate aliases, and also about the, you know, the context menu and the pop-up menu. So all there documented better. So thank you for the feedback you gave me last time, and I'm adding based on your feedback and questions all the time. So that's, you know, big thank you for that. Let's see the Lighthouse. I got really good feedback and different questions and different, you know, especially the challenges you faced was really helpful. What I tried to do here is just list some of the commands that are commonly used in solid modeling, like or rectilinear modeling in like the Lighthouse with that we have, and just a link in the help for those specific topics. So, you know, you can quickly check what they are. And also I try to do a step-by-step how the modeling is done. This is what I'm going to do real quick. And just create the walls, create the floors, and then, you know, create the railing and all the dimensioning. But also we're going to extract some 2D drawings out of it today. So that's the first thing on the agenda to do. And as I said, as I go, if you have any questions, anything not clear or you struggle with, let me know. Most of you have done it, so I'll just quickly try to build it and explore different ways to do the same thing. So you have that versatility of, you know, how to create things. One of the things I like to do is to know the basic form or thing that I'm trying to create. So it's a really good idea to, if you have, for example, in this case, I do have an image. I just dragged and dropped, and it says, do you want to open it as a picture? I said, okay. And then it will ask me for the 2 corners to, for the, you know, this is perspective. So if I go to the top, you'll see the proportion a little better here. So this is my picture. And I'm going to use this picture as a reference for me when I do the modeling. It's really easy. This method we use as well when you sketch something and you want to kind of draw it. So you have sketched a plan and a section, and then you want to place those roughly in your 3D modeling environment and use it as a reference for your drawing. It's a good idea to do it. Picture command, picture, or drag and drop, both do the same thing and open it as a picture. And I always like to lock it in place using lock command so that this way I don't, you know, it's not selectable and, you know, it's easy to deal with. Another thing I like to do before locking is if you go to the material of the picture, I like to have some transparency, like 50% transparency maybe. And this way, if your lines are really heavy, they will not overpower your, you know, the lines that you draw on top of it, especially if you draw on top. In this case, we just have it to the side, so you don't have to have the transparency. But this is something I typically like to do. So I'll lock it. I'll go back to my perspective, and so right now is I'll just use that, you know, the basic dimensions and the basic form to help me create my my tower. So one of the things that you can, you know, quickly use that, just because it is continuous box looking, you know, the tower. Let me see if I open both the perspective and the top, and this way I can have it with the right kind of a proportion. I can even unlock, and let's put it just far away here. Zoom to it and keep it in there. And I'll just reduce this. So I'm working within the perspective view, but I have a decent kind of look at my picture here in the top view. So I'll do, you know, you can start with a box, but I like to start with a rectangle instead. So starting with curves, give me some reference that I can use as I work. It is a bit exhaustive, but it's really great if you have a reference layer, and give it some bright color like green, and all your reference geometry can be there. This is not the final geometry. You can think of it as a scaffolding. So I'm going to create a rectangle here, and I'm going to use the center option. And I know I want to either snap to the center, or I can type 0 up there, and that will take me to the center straight away. Now what I want is 4 by 4, so I can just you know, type 4 for, you know, for accuracy, and then another 4, and I have my 4 by 4. One of the things you need to remember is that our dimensions are in meters here, and I'm not sure, I didn't check if my Rhino environment is actually using meters. One of the places you go to is here down the bottom, and you'll see that if I, you know, use it reads millimeters. So what I've just created is 4 by 4 millimeter for the base of my Lighthouse. So how can I change that? You go to options. It is accessible either through this gear icon, or you type options in the command line, and it opens Rhino Options. Rhino Options, one of the, you know, it has two main parts, what is called the document properties and the Rhino Options. The document properties, when you change them, it will only change the document you are working with right now. While Rhino Options, if you change them, it will change any subsequent new file that you open. So just keep that in mind. In this case, I just want to change the units from millimeters to meters. Okay, and press OK. Now it's going to ask me, do you want to scale your model? In this case, I don't want to scale because I really thought I was working on with meters, and I did like 4 by 4. I don't want that to be scaled to be minute, like 4 by 4 millimeter. So I'll just go no, and it will keep this. But now you see down the bottom there is meters here with the units, and if I use the dimension command dim to measure the distance here, you can see it is basically 4 meters. So that's, you know, that's what I'm looking for. And now I fixed my units. Typically, you'd want to do that as a first step, and before you start modeling. But now, like, I forgot to do that. You still can change your units. Now, I have my base here, basically, that I can create my wall, which is 15 meters. You see, using Gumball, and if you click on that circle, you know, not the arrow moves the actual curve. But if you click on the ball and pull up, it's just going to extrude it. And you can type 15, and it will extrude it to the exact distance you want it. You let go, and this becomes your wall. Typically, I like to work in ghosted mode, so I can at least see through a little bit and be able to check, you know, what's inside my model. I'll show you later how you can change the transparency and control the edge thickness and all the different things about your display to create it to your liking. But for now, we're just going to go with the default setting. Now, this is my wall, and I'm just going to create a wall layer on the right here. And while it's still selected, I'm just going to move, you know, when you click on an object, there is the properties, if you recall, and the properties tell us which layer this object is in. I'm just going to move it to the walls layer. And also my reference rectangle or square here, I'm just going to move it to the reference. Because at the end of the day, sometimes, you know, I'm just going to hide my reference when I'm done. I don't need it. If I hide my wall is hidden. If I open my reference, it opens my reference square. So that's, you know, how you can control the visibility of what you see and what you don't. So now that I created my wall and the height is 15 meters, what I want to create is basically the floors. I will hide my my wall for now, and I need more maybe reference points. Perhaps you don't need it, but I'll do it as a good practice. I'll create a line down from the bottom here, and I will remember to choose vertical. So I will go from the center and vertically 15, and that's going to be the end of my line. I should have chosen to work, within the reference, and this way I don't have to keep selecting and moving to the reference. I do have the floors at 3 meters height, so I can divide into 5 segments my curve, and that will create the points where I can use to snap to when I create one floor, and I can copy it all the way to the top. So that's my way of doing it. It can be done in any other way, but I always love to create some sort of scaffolding to help me, you know, reference or snap to the geometry. Rhino provide a lot of modeling aid that you don't need that, but it's one way to do it. Now to create the floors, I will create a new layer and change the color of it to red. Now, each one of these floors, if you can see, has, you know, there's something wrong here. The bottom floor doesn't need to have the hole here because the spiral staircase, you know, it's just, this is the base floor. So what I'll do is just to create a plane using a plane command. I'll go make my floors as my current layer just by clicking here next to the floors. And I'll just create my plane. And basically, I'll need another one. I'll just copy this one. And the other one is going to have a hole in it. So I'll just create a circle. And this is one of the questions, is how to snap to the center of that square to create the circle with the hole in it. So I'll just go circle. And one of the really nice things about Rhino down here is called the Smart Track. Smart Track will try to predict where you want to go. So if I hover over that corner, it will turn white, and then I hover to on the next corner until it turns also white. And now it really tried to look for the middle between, just, go along that line or the middle of it. And I immediately was able to snap in the middle of my plane. Now I click as the center of my circle. It depends what kind of radius I want, maybe 1.2 meters. I type 1.2 for accuracy and press enter. And now what I have is that circle that I can use to trim my plane. So I'll use a trim command, and it will ask me here at the top, select the cutting object, and it's my circle. And then you click in the region you want it to be split out or trimmed out. So I'm going to click in the middle of it, and now press enter. And now I have my floor that has the hole in it, right? So now, now that this is there, I can just, let me see if I should extrude it first. As you know, the floors has a bit of a thickness, let's say, I don't know, 10 centimeters. So one way to do it is to use Extrude Surface command, but another way is just to use the Gumball. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to click on that circle, the sphere in the middle of the blue arrow, and I'm going to pull up. I know there will be an extrusion, but I want it to be exactly 0.1, and let go, and that created the thickness for my floor. I'm going to create it with Extrude Surface, undo, and you can just click on it and type Extrude Surface. It will ask you what kind of thickness you want, if you wanted both sides, if you want it to be solid, if you want to delete your input, in this case, yes. If you want it to extrude it to some boundary surface. So there are lots of options there. But what I care about is 0.1 is the distance that I want, and that created the thickness. Same thing as we did with the Gumball, really, basically. Now I'll just move this using move command back to the corner here. So I can also extrude it and then try to copy it along there. So I'll just use my Gumball, extrude it vertically. I'll type 0.1 and then let go. So I have my extruded floor, that one that has the hole. I'll just now move it with the move command, and I'll move it from 0, which is my origin. And now it's a matter of snapping to the point that I just created for my scaffolding. And this is the second floor is placed there. I can copy the rest. So I'll copy this one to from this center to here. And I have 1, 2, and then the one on top, I'm going to copy it here. But as you know that that floor need to have a bigger kind of deck because it's, there is the observation deck up there. But I just copied that one. The problem with this, if I scale using the center and scale it from that corner all the way up, it's going to really scale the circle as well, the middle circle. So instead of doing that, I will basically untrim this hole, or basically recreate a rectangle here that is a little bigger and recreate my floor. So I'll just delete this guy. And remember that, I'll move my circle here. I'll put it in the scaffolding as well. And I'll move it from the center of it to 0. And if I copy that circle and the rectangle curve and copy it vertically from 0 to this point, now I have some reference geometry that I can use but I want to scale this, or I want basically so that it will be the size of the deck, which is 6 meters. Another thing I can do is just basically recreate that, which might be even easier than scaling. So I'll just delete that actually. Go to my reference layer and say rectangle, and I'm going to snap to the point, and then oh, I should have chosen center. So center, snap, and then it's going to be 6 by 6. So I'm going to type 6 and then 6. And remember, all geometry is created parallel to your active C-plane. So my C-plane is the world top C-plane. And since I snapped in some sort of elevation, the rectangle will continue to fall in a plane that is parallel to that. So now I've got my the plane and the circle, and I'll go to my floors. Instead of creating a plane and trimming it, there is a command in Rhino that create planar surfaces, and it really honors the boundaries that you select, whether it's outer boundaries or inner boundaries of your surface. The command is called the planar surface. And what you need to do is to select all the curves that generate that surface. And now you see the surface with the hole in it was created. Now it's a matter of just extruding. And I'll just create that extruded floor. So now all the floors are created to the sizes that I wanted to use. Now I can turn on my wall just so that it can see how the whole thing fit together. And I can turn off my scaffolding because maybe I'm not using it at this point, but it just gives me an idea. Now to create the roof, pyramid is the easiest command to use, and the number of sizes are 4. And I can snap to the center. Oh, let me turn on my scaffolding because this comes handy for the center of my pyramid. And then, you know, snap to one of the corners and then pick an elevation. And now this is created. I actually needed to generate or create a specific layer for the roof, and I can choose, you know, any kind of maybe brown for the color. And now I can select my roof and change it from floors to roof. Yeah. So now I have like the bulk of my lighthouse, and I need to create a railing. The exercise that I gave you is, you know, kind of simplified, and where the railing is basically, let me create a layer here and give it a color, let's say maybe gray. And so all you needed to do basically is to select that curve and perhaps extrude it up by maybe, I don't know, 1.2. And that create your railing, and just put it in the railings. And, you know, that's, you know, a simple way of doing it. Here, I've gone a little sophisticated, and what I did is just created all these little pipes or cylinders. And there are multiple ways to do it, and it's not hard at all. So let's try to make those. So what you can do is first you divide your curve, and let's be in the railing layer. You can divide your curve to points and then extrude these points. And once you extrude the points, you can create a pipe around them. So that's one way to do it. There are other ways to do that, which is you can array you know, create one cylinder, one railing, and array it along a path, and you can specify the spacing. That's also another very easy way to do it. So what I'll do is just create the, you know, both methods. I'll use both methods. So use divide command, where you, you know, divide your curve into, you know, it asks you if you want to change the seam, which is the base of your curve. In this case, I don't. And it asks you to the number of segments. So I know I have, you know, 4 edges, and I want to do, it's 6 meters. You know, you can calculate the spacing, but, you know, I'll just guess I want to have maybe, you know, 40 segments, 10 per side. And that created all the points around. You can see the points. If I want to select the points, and it's hard to select all of them, there are multiple ways to do that much easier. I'll turn off the reference, and now all the points I have in the scene are basically the points I want to select. So you can select by object type. So you can do cell point. You see this select point, it will select all the points you have in the scene. So the points are selected. Another way to do it is to use the selection filter. So you can right mouse click on the points, and that turns off everything else. So if you do a window selection, all it will select are the points. So these are 2 quick ways to selecting your points. I'm just gonna click on this blue sphere and type maybe 1.2 for the height, and let go. And this is my curves now created. Now, if I want to select them, and I picked a color that is very hard to see, I'm gonna change to turquoise. That's not easy to see either. Let's see, cyan. Yep, it's a bit more bright. And you'll see that these curves and the points are not something that I wanted to be in my model. It's more as part of the scaffolding as well. Now, if I window select, it will select only the points because, you know, the curves in the selection filter are not turned on. So I needed to kind of click on the curves as well and window select. It selected all my points and curves, and I can move them all together to my reference. Remember, my reference is turned off, so this is why they didn't show. Once I select my curves, I can create a pipe command. See, when I'm rotating, if you can see, I'm rotating and my tower is coming in front of me. And this is not very comfortable position to be in. So it's best to select what you're working with and use zoom selected like that. And this way you orbit exactly around the object you just selected. So it really gives you a lot more control this way. Now, once you create these curves, it's a matter of doing pipe or multi-pipe. You'll see the pipe command here will allow you to have an option with multiple. So it tells you to select the rails, which are the curves. So multiple, and then I select all my curves that I want to create a pipe around, press enter, and then it asks me about the radius of my pipe, and in this case it could be 0.05, you know, really small radius, and it generates all the pipes for the railing. So that's basically the workflow for generating the railing. I'll recreate it in my tower. Does that explain it?
Yeah, no, that's good.
So now let's do it again. I will select my curve. I first do divide, call the divide command. And it asks me to select my curve. I do. And then the seam is just keep it where it is. The number of segments, we said we will do 40. And I have all my points now. I can select all the points using window select because I only have points allowed to be selected here. The problem is actually it's going to select that middle point as well. So another way to select only what you just created is a command called select last. So select the last thing you have created, which are these points. I'll extrude them vertically using the Gumball, and I'll type 1.2 and let go. And I have all my reference geometry for my railing. Again, I can use last. Let's try if we do pre-select before we run the pipe command. And it will ask me for, it immediately recognize it's multiple, and it's remembered the thickness from last time. And we said yes, flat, and no thickness to it, press enter. And then I have all my railing studs now created. I might need a handle, so I'll just copy my curve here vertically from the corner point here, and vertically, I didn't choose the vertical option, but what I can do is try to snap to the center of my, or the end of my line here, and that, put it in the right spot. I can pipe it through it, or I can basically extrude it downwards by, I don't know, 0.3. And that basically create the handle for my railing. The issue now is that they all are in the reference layer. So what I'll do is I'm gonna just hide the rest of the geometry, and it makes it easier for me to select, just the geometry that I want to move to the railing. I also can hide selectively this, the curves, and so no, actually, I'll use the selection filter because in this case, I'm selecting surfaces only, and poly surfaces, I'm not selecting any points or curves. So instead of curve and point, I'm gonna hit surface and poly surface, window select, and then move it to the railing, right? And now I can turn on my roof and walls and floors, and sort of starting to kind of form into the kind of tower that I wanted to generate, right? Any question up to that point? Anything not clear that I've done or need to be done again? I mean, the last step will be to create the windows and the pole in the middle. No questions? Okay, perfect. So now to create the windows, and this can be a little tricky. I'll go back to my reference layer. And because I want to create rectangles that, or squares or whatever the opening size, and I want to draw it basically on this face, it is best if I can change my C-plane to align with this face and be able to generate these curves. So if you recall C-plane with 3 points, I can snap to the corner here for my x-axis, and then for my y-axis, I can snap to the top here. What I have here is my active C-plane facing this, this elevation. which makes it extremely easy to draw anything here. Actually, I can even move my base or my zero origin to the center here to even make it even easier. But I don't need to do that. I'll just try to draw a rectangle here. And the first corner, I'm going to turn off the smart track. And I'm using OSnap, and I'm snapping to perhaps, just somewhere here in the corner. And if you see that I'm drawing, basically, if I'm not snapping anywhere, I can even turn off the grid snap, the OSnap. I can freely draw on just that elevation. I can't. I'm restricted to that active C-plane, and it is extremely helpful. So depending on the height of my door, I can type, for example, it starts with the X, so the width of it, let's say 1.5, and then the height, let's say 2.2. And that is my my doorway. I can move it. Select. Sorry, I don't have the curves turned on as a selection. So I'll select my my curve that I just created and move it to center. Starting with the midpoint. I'll turn on my OSnaps. Now they come handy. I don't want the center, just midpoint here to the midpoint of this curve. So now I was able to kind of center it onto that elevation. I can generate another window for the intermediate floors. So I'll just create another rectangle, and I'll just snap to the one that I just created and to its midpoint, and just basically move it vertically by 3 meters. So it's going to be vertical option with the base and by 3 meters. Oh, actually, it moves 3 in the Z direction, and that's not really where I want to go. I want to move it along the Y axis. So let's just run the move command again. It doesn't have to be vertical from this point, and then we can use your mouse to just move it vertically like that along any axis. Of course, we can use the ortho as well to restrict it to move in the orthogonal kind of direction. From here, I just need to copy to the other 2 floors, and I'll just snap to the top of the the door, and then to the top of the window, and again to the top of the window. So I was able to create all these, and maybe I'll need another doorway at the top floor, the deck floor. So I'll just copy this from the this bottom point, and then I just want it all the way up there. You see, as soon as I changed my C-plane to be aligning with this elevation, it's so easy to draw on it. And also it's so easy to go back to the world C-plane and C-plane command, and then world, and then top. Remember, there is also another way if you are working with C-planes, named C-planes. By default, the world top is there, so you double click on it and it's immediately make your current viewport the world top. Oh, look at that. That didn't really, it snapped to the wrong location, this window. So let's just move it from the center of it, basically. So I'll also just use the mid here only. So I'm going to go from the vertex and not perpendicular. So I'm just going to go from the mid of my my curve here. I found it. This is the mid, and I'll just go also to the middle of I'm going to go to the middle of another one and move it vertically using Gumball here. So now this is placed in the right location here. And at that point, I can create or drill holes into my walls. Before I do that, I want to add a thickness to my wall. And offset surface is a good command to use. So I'll use offset surface, and I'll select my wall here. And I want, you know, a thickness of, you know, 0.2 is fine. And it just tells me whether, you know, you need it to the inside or the outside. The arrows indicate which direction it is actually going to offset. So I'll just do flip all. And I'll say, yes, I want it to be a solid, and press enter. And now I generated my wall with a thickness here, right? So that's a poly surface. If you don't want to see the ISO curves, you can select it under the properties. You can untick the checkbox, show surface ISO curves. So it's actually going to read a lot cleaner this way. All right. Now it's a matter of drilling the holes through the wall, and make hole is a good command for it, but there are a lot of other commands that you can use. You can generate, extrude them, and then Boolean difference is another way, but let me use make hole command. And what you need to do is just to create, select all the curves that you would like to use to make a hole. And then it asks you which surface or poly surface you want to make a hole. That's the one. And how far you want to drag it. Obviously, I don't want to go all the way, or maybe I do, but I'll just go down to the middle here so that I just only drill holes through that side of my lighthouse. Now I can use these rectangles here to create my windows and doors. So I'll just go to layers, create a new layer, and call it windows. And in that layer, I will use a planar surface to be able to generate, you know, the window surface to cover all these holes. And I'll just make this my active current layer, and I'll call planar surface command, and it will ask me for all the curves that I want to create a planar surface with. So these are my curves into the scaffolding or the reference layer. I have multiple curves here. I'll use this one and press enter. And that generated all the window surfaces. Let me change the color here of the layer to maybe cyan. And I can move them to the center if I want to. I mean, I'm not going to bother, but so these are basically the windows right now. It is shaping up. We do have the cylinder, the pole. I didn't create this spiral staircase here, so just to simplify it, you can use a cylinder, and I'll be in the railing, and at the 0, I can create, you know, just say 0.1 or maybe 0.2 in radius, and then just vertically. I wouldn't want to go all the 15, so I can go maybe, let's say 13.5 in height. And this is basically my my staircase or my spiral staircase wall. One last step I'd like to say to do, because we touched on it really quickly. Remember that there is under layers, there is the material. You can specify a material. Now, if I go say render, it just, let me turn off the reference layer. It will really gonna look like that. Maybe let's just actually, you know what? I'll just go ghosted. I'm gonna select my windows, and a good way, an easy way to select everything in a certain layer, you can just right mouse click on the layer itself, and you can say, I want to select all. Oops, sorry, not that one. Under Windows, let's see, there is a way to select the objects in the layer, select objects. And I just want to move them a little bit backwards to the, from an end, snap, from this end to maybe to the middle. This way I can see something, you know, different with the windows and doors when I go rendered, just so that I can recognize it. So this is just like a white kind of basic, you know, shading of rendering, and doesn't have any material applied to it. But if you recall that if you click on the material, it is really, there is a quick way to select the materials by layer. And this is why we went through the trouble of separating all the different parts into different layers, so that we can quickly go and say, I want to add a material. I want it to be maybe glass, and I want the color of my glass to be kind of, you know, bluish. And I wanted to, you know, certain kind of level of clarity if I want to specify, and refraction, and go okay. So what happened is that the material was applied in rendering. Remember, if you display as ghosted, it's not going to make a difference, but in rendering, then you will start to see things, you know, applied as materials. Maybe for the walls, or I can pick a material, and let's say I'll use maybe plaster, and I'll pick a really, you know, some color, could be, I don't know, a tan color, and say okay. And that give me, you know, the color of my, or the material for my walls. I can do the same for the roof. And maybe I'll just pick a different color plaster, or maybe I'll make it metal. So I'll just add a material, and I'll make it, I don't know, paint metal. You can do it custom. And with the metal, you get to choose, you know, what kind of metal, you know, what color you want it to be, and how polished it is. And that's really a quick way of, you know, and even the colors it gives you, they are kind of in the metal kind of color scheme. I'll just say bronze. And slowly you start to, maybe I'll do the railing also bronze metal, or something similar, also a metal. So here I'll pick a material. Maybe I'll just pick the same material, the metal material of the roof, and that creates it. And for the floors, I'll pick something different, a plaster that is of, you know, different color. And this will change the colors of the flooring. So you can quickly basically apply materials, and you see it in render mode in this case. You can go back to, you know, the wireframe, the shaded, or the ghosted that we worked with, which is a really nice mode to work The last thing left is the dimensions. So I'll add a new layer and type dimension. And as you can see, it's pretty easy to do the dimension. It always follows the active C-plane direction. So for the base, I'll just snap to my base here, to the ends, 2 ends, and then this is where the dimension is. I suppose I didn't make it the active layer, so I'll just select my dimension. As you can see that I have turned off the selection, like annotation. I can't select it anymore because of that. And now I'll select it and move it in the properties from the railing to the dimension. So the base is easy. If I want to do anything parallel to the active C-plane is easy. So I'll run the dim command again, and I can snap to, you know, the end of my floor here. And I can quickly generate my dimensions. But if I come to want to do the elevation dimension, if I go dimension and select from the top to the bottom, you'll see a 0 because it really measuring parallel to the active C-plane. So what you need to do is you change your C-plane like we did last time. I wish we saved it, but we'll just run C-plane. And, you know, this time I'll just say I want to snap to a surface, just so that I quickly just select my surface and the origin. And now I have my elevation, or, you know, the backside of my wall. It doesn't matter as long as it's parallel. It will allow me to create the dimension. So dim, and then I snap to the ends of my tower. And this, what is it? That's 15, right? So basically that's, you know, how you generate the dimensions at a direction that is not the same as, you know, or not parallel to your active C-plane. I know some of you had difficulty with that. And we can quickly go back to the world origin, name C-plane, world top, and then go back where we were. All right. I probably spent more time than most of you creating the tower. But you know, I just wanted to go through different scenarios so that you can have a feel of the scope of, you know, the different ways you can do something like that. Somebody mentioned that they wanted to use reference points to create the roof. So that if we had points here, for example, some reference points, and you want to create these, you know, use these reference points to create your roof, the surfaces of the roof. Let me hide my roof here. Then you can do it a few different ways. If you have curves, obviously it's the easiest way. So if I have lines between the points, and I want to be able to snap to a point. Points, point, point. So I have 3 lines here. Let me hide my wall so I can see a little better here. And the floors and the railing. Let's just get things out of the way here. Oh, we were in the dimension. So edge surface command under surface. It's a very commonly used command, edge curves basically. So you can select 2, 3, or 4 curves to create a surface. So you can create surface from edges. But if you don't have edges and just the points, you can snap to certain points to create a surface. So there is a corner points, and then you can start snapping to the points to create your surface. So there are ways to use your reference points to create your surfaces if you choose to do it this way. All right. Any questions? Yeah.
Hi, Roger. Just a quick question.
Yep.
Which command did you use to dig out the holes for the windows?
Make hole.
Make hole.
Under solid edit tools and holes, there is a make hole command. It's right there. And you can do, you can type make hole as well. One of the commands that I really like, and I've actually written to cut holes out of things, is called wire cut. So if we have a box, for example, and you have some sort of a wire, let me zoom here around my curve. So if you have a line somewhere across and you just want to, use it like hot wire kind of thing to cut through, there is the wire cut command, which you select your wire and the objects you want to cut. And then it's a matter of basically you want to kind of drag it in any direction you want. So drag it vertical and then there. And then it tells you which part to keep and which part to cut away. And, you press enter to accept, and this portion was cut away. So if we had a circle, so it can be closed curve as well, and I want to cut through that object with the circle, I can run wire cut command and the cutting curve and the object, press enter, and then it tells me how far you want to cut. If you want to cut all the way through, and that basically cut a hole for you. So that's another way to do it. But this one you select only one curve, but multiple objects to cut through. While make hole, you select multiple holes and one object to cut through, if that makes sense.
No, that's cool. Also, is there like a function to the ISO curves? Because from my past experience, they've been pretty useless.
So let me just create a plane here. Let me make it more interesting. This is a NURBS curve, so you can build it into multiple, more complexity. So there is rebuild command. I'll show you something along the way. So this 4x4 and degree 3. Okay. So if you turn on the control points of the surface, you can start moving them and be able to kind of sculpt your surface. I'm just trying to make it interesting when you extract the ISO curves here. So these ISO curves are only for visual purposes, and you can increase the density here so you can see more of these ISO curves, right? In NURBS modeling, the ISO curves go in two directions, what we call the U direction and the V direction of the surface. And this is a good spot for me to show you how you can easily differentiate. There is the direction command, dir. You select an object, press enter. What it does is basically gonna show you where the surface base is, which is at the far end, and the red arrow follows the U direction of your surface, and the green arrow is the V direction of your surface. So this is the V direction, and this is the U direction of your surface. So if you want to extract an ISO curve, it will ask you which direction do you want, the U direction or the V direction. If you don't know, it's a matter of an experiment, but there is a way to always know which direction your ISO curves are running. So I'll exit that command and go somewhere in Rhino Options. And currently, let me double check which we are in ghosted mode. Let me go to Rhino Options. And I wanted to be able to go through multiple useful options to set to customize your space. But for now, let me just go straight to how to be able to color the ISO curves with 2 different colors on your surface. Extremely useful. I use it all the time. So under View down the bottom there, if you expand it, under Display Modes, now we are under the ghosted, right? So expand the ghosted. And under Objects and click on Surfaces. Phew, finally you get to a spot where you can customize what you're seeing in terms of colors of your ISO curves. So say ISO curve color usage under Surface ISO curve setting. Here it is set by default to the user object color. You want to set it to UV specific colors. So the U direction, set it to red, and the V direction, set it to green or dark green, whichever one you want. And go OK. And from that point on, any surface you create, the ISO curves are going to be colored with the colors that you specified. There's another really nice setting is you wanted to know where is the normal or the up direction of your surface. So each surface has a front and a back. And right now I wouldn't know which direction unless if I run the direction command again, click on my surface, and then it will show me, tells me, you know, the white is where the up direction is of my surface. There is a way to visually be able to tell. Go back to Options. Again, under Ghosted, which what we're interested in, and under Objects, if you click on Objects themselves, let's see, or click on Ghosted, and down here you'll see back face setting. If you don't want to use the front face, just use a single color for the back face, and traditionally it's been the you know, the sea green, and you'll see all the exercises uses the sea green, and you'll know that this is the back color of your surface. So now visually you can really understand your nerve surface, which is the front, which is the back, and where's the U and V direction of your surface. While we're at it, let's go to Options. And if I don't like the level of transparency that I have under Ghosted, right now it says the gloss is 50. You know, you might not want it to be glossy. You know, you want it to, the gloss to be 10, but the transparency to be much higher than that, maybe 60. And now you see how even with my tower, if I turn it on, you see how where is my roof show? I'll turn on off my dimensions. I started to see the back color of my, and it's dominating because it's looking it through and the transparency is very high. So you're starting to kind of see things this way. And you know, the back color is not transparent, so it kind of messes things up somewhat. But yeah, so you don't want to set the transparency to be super high. Something reasonable with I don't know, 40, it depends on your application. But you can always restore the defaults here, and that reset everything to the way it comes out of the box with Rhino. Okay. Typically it's the shaded mode that we set the back color to be, because it's not look through and it's much easier. So we use the single color for all back faces, and the color would be the sea green, okay? And also we set up the object surface ISO curve specific colors for the U, red, and for the V, oops, okay, and for the V will be green, dark green, okay, okay. So now if I go shaded mode, I just created my surface here. And you'll see the back color is green and I have the U and the V. Now back to your question, how to extract ISO curves. Just extract ISO curve. And most of the commands are really, you know, exactly what you can think of. So extract ISO curve command, you select the surface and it asks you to whether you want the U curve or the V curve, V direction curve, or if you want both of them. So that's extracting as many ISO curve as you want for your out of your surface. All right. Many times you want some reference points to extract, so you want like equal intervals along your surface. So always do something like divide and select the edge, and then say I want to divide it to 5 segments. And then once you want to extract the ISO curves, this way you have something to snap to. So I want only the, I already know, I want to go along the V because I want along the green part. And then you can quickly snap to all the points to be able to accurately extract the ones at the location you want. Yeah? Any other questions? So we touched on some of the Rhino options, and there are awesome number of options that you can set up and that are quite useful. So this is the viewing part of your NURB surfaces is extremely useful. But let me run through the options and look up all the different things that you know are useful in there. The grid, for example, if you want your grid lines, there is minor and major grid line. So what kind of spacing you want? If you think you want your minor to be every 25 centimeters, then you can do that. And the major is every 5 meters. You say, I want every 10 meters instead. Then you snap spacing is every 0.25. This way you created a grid that is that you can snap to because you know that your modeling is going to be every 25 centimeters. So if I say rectangle here, I can quickly snap to anywhere in between. That's like my kind of minor spacing, and the major is every 10 meters. So I can just quickly know that, you know, that's behind, you know, the kind of, you know, the grid minor and major that I have here. Let's go back to options. Other than grids, you have the units. We talked about it. So how you set your units is important. The tolerance, and there is a really good video that I linked to from the notes. It says, what's the significance of how you set your tolerance? I wouldn't, you know, play with it too much unless if you know that you're working with very tiny tolerances and maybe you want to add like a couple zeros here, especially if your units are meters. But this is basically the level of accuracy. So if you're joining two curves or two surfaces next to each other, and if they are within that distance, they will be joined. If not, they will fail to join. So that's basically, but more details in the video. I also talked about the aliases, which is you can add shortcuts. So say you use certain command a lot. For example, I use the move vertical a lot. So I basically added it into my context menu, but I can add it also as an alias. Here, for example, move command is already added by Rhino with letter M. O with letter to switch the ortho and what have you. But you can add a new alias here, and you can call it whatever you want. For example, you use box command a lot, and you want to just use letter B instead. So you just type box here and say OK. And from that point on, if I type B enter, it will start the box command for me. And this is how you can customize your environment to be able to add the shortcuts that you like. The context menu is basically, I already added the move vertical and zoom extent. And this one is going to show when you right click and leave, it will show up here. So this is really handy way. Move vertical is if I click on it, I can immediately move vertical without having to click through options. So that's really handy to customize your environment with the aliases and with the context menu. Some of the other things that you can do is the modeling aid. So for example, the ortho. The ortho by default is set up to 90. So what ortho means in modeling in general, let me just hide everything here. If you set up ortho down here, if you draw a line from any point, it will not let you draw it except in the direction or orthogonal direction. And in this case, it's only 90 degrees relative to your coordinate system. But if you go to options and change that to be every 45 degrees, then when I draw a line, I will constrain myself not just to the ortho, but also to the 45 degrees as well. So if you know ahead of time that there are certain set of angles you work with, which is the 90, but also the 30 and the 60, or maybe every 15 degree or 10 degrees increments, then you can set up your ortho and you quickly can draw easily in these directions with the ortho turned on. If you click on it, it will turn it off. And then from that point, if I draw a line, I can draw it basically in any direction. It doesn't really confine itself to the orthogonal direction. So that's what ortho is about, and how many degrees you set up based on your model. This is really useful. Mouse setup, that's, the defaults are really good, but, some people like to set up certain things. Oh, sub-object selection is a nice topic. I'll touch on it right now. Plugins tell you all the plugins that come with Rhino, but also any custom plugins that you load, and you can see them and control them from this window. The render options, and toolbars, but the update and statistics, if you happen to want to be notified every service release or every service release candidate, you can set up that. But one of the most important ones is the view, and we talked about it, about the different display modes and how you can customize it to have, certain edge thickness, certain, instead of 2, I want it to be 5. And this way the edge thickness will be 5 instead. Let me say, okay. And if I draw a box here, what is the edge thickness? Is it specific to an object? It's the surface edge setting. So see, the thickness of this edge will be 5 pixels basically. But then you can go by object and you can make all your point size, to whatever you want, So the point is, if it's 10, I'll just do a point here, but I need to be in wireframe. As you can see, when I switch to wireframe, the edge thickness of my poly surface, my box, became 5 pixels, and my point became 10 pixels. So you can customize all these based on the kind of look that you like. One of the other areas in options that I like to customize is the appearance. So if you don't like that gray color in the background, so you can change it to white, and you can change your major and minor grid colors. And you can also change, the axis lines, the, the selected object color if you don't want it to be yellow. But also in general, like if you want to change the interface, the layer dialog background color, you can start to kind of customize the looks to start to have different colors. So the layer now took the light gray. But yeah, so all these different things can help you change the colors and the looks of your interface, or the objects that the background, the grid, all that. So really, these things you can set up in options, and you can have the the options that you're most comfortable with.
Hi, Rajaa.
Yes.
So after you done all this setting, how do you save it? Like, so when I open Rhino next time, will that be the same setting?
Very good question. So under options, I mentioned, but really quickly in the beginning, there are two parts, which are the document properties and the Rhino properties. The document property is saved to that particular document, the file that you're working on. So it's not really going to change a new file at all. If you open a new file, it will have, the standard, say, units instead of the units that you set in your model. But the Rhino options will change any future new file that you open. Does that make sense? So when I changed, for example, let's just cancel here, and let me just close that and don't save it. And I'll just open a new Rhino, Rhino 6, yes. And it's opening it. What will be, it will be the, you see how the, now the background is white, just like I said it, because this is in the Rhino options. So any new file you open is gonna have this. However, remember how we changed it to meters? It reopened to the default, which is the millimeter. It affected only the file that you changed. So back to options. You will see that anything we changed under Rhino options in terms of, say, even the display, how we change the, the back color and all that, that also saved for all future files that you will open.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So under Rhino option, there's no option to change the unit permanently.
No, but if you open a new file, it will ask you to say which template you want to use. So if you always use meters, say use this file when start Rhino, check that box and click on meters and say open. So now the units are meters. If I close Rhino and open a new Rhino 6, by default, it should open the one with the meters, right?
Yep, yep.
Right there. So that's how you can customize it.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
If you create your own template file, and there is a really nice video that I I think I also linked to. If you create your own template file with document setting, a Rhino setting, and all the kind of color scheme and arrangement and everything that you like, you know, you always work with these docked, you know, to that side or whatever might be, you know, the your preferences. Then you can go ahead and save it as template. So you say save as template, and I'll call it, you know, my default file in meters, whatever I want. And I'll save that into the template, and it will be added to the template files, right? Save. If I open file, open, oh, sorry, file in new, my default file meters is there, right? And I can use it as my default anytime Rhino opens. And I say open, it will always open with the kind of setting and layout and options that I love and work with. And from that point on, anytime Rhino opens by default, it's going to open my template file with all the options that I saved. There you go.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah. So we're hitting very quickly the advanced territory. This is not really taught and until very later, but I know we have a mixture of users here, and you know, I'm confident you guys are able to kind of take all that. You know, the format of the workshop is such that I get to do the talking, and it might be exhausting to sit back and only watch and not be able to kind of do as we go. So let us just do something fun real quick. I'll show you something and you get to play and create things and then ask questions. Under solid, you know, you can create all kinds of solids here. So I'll just create a bunch of boxes and show you what we call the sub-object modeling. Oh, this is ugly, the edges here in my template file now. I'll create another box. And I'll do some solid or sub-object selection. Remember, when you click on an object, it selects the whole object, and then you can move it around and what have you, right? But what if I just want to move the top of my box? You know, how do you do it? There's something called the sub-object selection. You do it by holding down Shift and Control, and then select your sub-object. The sub-object could be a surface, but it also could be an edge. So if I hold the Shift and Control down, I can now move just part of my object. If I hold it down, I can move only my edge. And this is really good with kind of rectangular or rectilinear kind of surfaces, and especially if they have 4 edges. It really very efficient for that kind of modeling. So you can quickly start doing these kind of things. You can Boolean, which is under solid. You can union objects, you can create difference or intersection, but if I want these 2 boxes to be just one box now, I can do Boolean Union between them. So solid, and I do union, and I select the 2 objects, and now I can union them. Just to prove to you, if I go to ghosted mode, you'll see that all the in-between partitions are gone. However, you see how the base now have 2, you know, coincident or coplanar to each other. You can clean things up by using merge all faces. and all coplanar faces going to be merged into one surface in this case, right? I can continue to sub-object select and edit. And in this case, okay, you see what happened here. It's very interesting. This side face is not 4 edges. And now in order to keep these edges in place, I might end up with something that is not really planar. So you need to kind of be careful. This one is still, after the union, is something that I can play with. This one will create something that is could be bendy, as you can see here. It's still a valid surface, but it's kind of stretched because the bounds need to stay in place. And I only moved that edge. So that's one of the things about sub-object modeling that you need to kind of pay attention to. Some of the things that you can do are really neat. You can split, for example, a face. So let me turn off the ISO curve so it's easier to look at that. So you can do a split face, and you can select one face and then split it. And you know, at that point you can select that and start moving it. Now it's gonna make a little bit of a, let me try it on a box easier, but well, let's be adventurous. So then you can create some kind of pitched sort of roof really quick using this. But yeah, feel free to create certain kind of geometry and start to kind of subtract from your existing geometry, and then Boolean difference here. I'll just subtract this from that, and then that will kind of generate this kind of object, and then you can select some of the faces and start moving them. And this is really nice way to kind of do solid modeling sometimes, you know, move the whole face, move it in, move it out, you know, some of the edges, move it in, and you start to kind of quickly sculpt that. But again, you need to be careful about it, because if you have faces with multiple edges, you might get into a situation. Some of the fun things that you can do is extruding as well. So you can select that face, but if you click on the sphere, you can extrude up. So I'm not just moving the face, I'm now extruding. And now you can quickly start to kind of expand your object to have, you know, cantilevers or, you know, what have you here. I can move that in this case. And, you know, you start to have these kind of situations. So yeah, that's the sub-object selection. I believe if you click under the snaps, the O-snaps under sub-object select, you will always select sub-objects. You don't select the whole object at once. So I can select the edge and move it and so on. But you can click it again and then it selects the whole object in this case. All right. If you don't want to hold the shift and the shift key, the shift and control key, you can click on the sub-object here, snap, and just snap to the sub-objects instead. All right. So this is sub-object selection and editing. So this is really kind of neat. One of the things that I still wanted to do, and I don't know if you have the stamina to go with it, is how to extract some 2D stuff out of your object. Are we still going strong? All right. So for example, let me go shaded mode, or, you know, just rendered. So this is an object that I have that I want to create a 2D line drawing out of. go back to shaded mode here. You see how the U and V direction is very visible, really nice. I'm just going to take it away. So there is a really good command, very powerful, called make 2D. The make 2D command is going to look at all the lines visible and even the ones hidden if you want to show them, and be able to create a planar line drawing of your scene or what you're looking at, and project it to the XY plane. So I say, it asks me to select the objects I want to create a make 2D or extract 2D lines out of, press enter. And then it gives you the option and say, do you want to just extract whatever you see in the view? Do you want to generate the hidden line or not? You want to group the output. So it gives you a number of options, and it will put everything in a layer and it call it whatever you want. By default, it calls it make 2D. Let's say okay. And what you see now in top view is that object that we were looking at, and there has been an overlap. So let me just move it away a little bit. And as you can see, this is what we were looking at in perspective. And this is just a planar, a 2D extraction of my scene. So that's a make 2D. Let me run it again and do it this time with, I'll just put my object here so that, and I'll shade it so it looks a little better here. And what I'll do is I will ask for the hidden line to also show, and I'll show you in layers what's going to be created. Make 2D, and I select my object, and I want the hidden line to also show. Okay, I'll move it a little bit to the left. As you can see now, what I see in here is all the hidden and visible lines. These are the hidden lines. By default, they are color gray. Let me change them to a color that is a little bit more kind of distinguishable here. Okay, say okay. And so top view, the layer is shaded wireframe, and select objects. And is it locked? Okay, visible. Select objects, something is happening. It's not changing the color there because, why? Let me select that and see what the property is. Oh, the display color is always black here for some reason. And the line type is by layer and the print color is black. So it really is not letting me change the layer color. And so the display color is by layer. Let me make it this way. And there should be this one for the hidden lines. Okay, so the hidden lines as well. So my problem here is that under properties, you have different layers and the display color is by layer and the line type is by layer and the print color is also by layer. Display color is by layer. Okay, so why when I changed the color here to something else, it just kept it gray. Oh, sorry, because the curves are not under the hidden, the main. It's actually here, so I can change that into something else. Yeah, oops, sorry. And press OK. Press OK. All right, finally. Thank you. So now I can change the hidden curves to whatever kind of color that I'm interested to show my drawing in. I can change the line type of it to anything I want, and you know, instead you can use the hidden line type or any other line type. And, you know, as you can see, this is just, you know, going to show this way. So Make 2D is really nice to use to extract, you know, what you see here in this view as a flat, and you can export it to any other program to do, for example, you know, hashes or fillings, or, you know, Illustrator, or any other kind of program. If you want to extract, say, sections through this object, let me just hide the Make 2D altogether. Then you can use section command, and section command is a command where you can select your object and you say, I want to section through there from this line to this line. But I want to section multiple sections. So you can do start, end of the section, and then start, end of the section, and what have you. And that extract all the different sections through your object, right? So that's section command. And what else? There's the contour, which create multiple sections through the object. So contour command is going to ask me which, you know, what is the object and what is the plane, the contour plane. So there is the base point and there is the perpendicular direction. And what is the distances between my contours, one. And it just created all these cuts through my object in the direction that I just specified, and that's contour. Okay. So these are some of the commands that you can use to extract 2D drawings. And just so that we use every last second there, or maybe not, we have 5 minutes, so I'm not gonna introduce anything new. If you have a question, let me answer your question here. Any questions? I'd say in general, if you are new to Rhino, it's a good idea. There are few menus that you look at. Curve, different ways to create curves, different ways to create surfaces, to create solids and edit them as well. A transform is really good because it also has certain kind of unconventional kind of transformations. Like, for example, you can twist or bend objects, but also you can flow certain object along other objects. So really nice set of transformations. So I'd say these 4 are really good to explore through them, and they are well organized for you to kind of experiment with different commands that come handy into modeling. Oh, I think I had a lot thrown at you, but I thought it's a good time to kind of, after we did the basic, is to show you a bit of more kind of scope of the different kind of things that you can do with the, you know, especially when you're doing an architectural modeling. But once we start next week to do our project, the house project, we will systematically use all these commands we talked about. Perhaps if you learn 50 commands, you're pretty much good to go. And many of the commands, you can guess their names by just typing that. So anything that include, for example, a Boolean will be auto-completed once you type the word Boolean. So these are the different Boolean commands, right? And the other ones is when Boolean is not the first word in there, or it's related to Boolean. So this is also another way to kind of remember. Remember when we talked about wire cuts, for example? So if you just type wire it just auto-complete that. If you want to do an extrusion, just type extrude and it will auto-complete anything that doesn't extrusion. For example, extrude surface, curve, extrude a surface to a point, extrude a curve tapered, extrude a surface tapered, and so on. So these are really like good way also to explore by using just, you know, guess certain things. Yeah. I hope it's been helpful, hopefully a little less boring for more advanced users, and we have a couple things introduced there. But for you just starting, I think you're already doing really great. We probably covered everything people do, even expert users, in terms of the range of commands and settings used in Rhino. And as we go, we can add more and talk about more. Yeah, feel free to go play and do things. Shoot me emails if you are hesitant about anything. If you have questions, I'm more than happy to answer. Remember to comment on the document here so that maybe you will get some exclusive time training session. And yeah, I'd love your feedback really. And if you find certain things that you need and missing, also let me know.
Or we can't really hear you.
You are muted. All right. I can't hear you. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh, you can hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nope, you've gone quiet again.
No.
I think your microphone maybe not set to your headset.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody. I know it's kind of tough. I don't know if next week you guys going to be in the lab or not, but I mean, either way, we're just going to carry on, I guess, with this format. Yeah, it's not going to be on? No?
Students aren't allowed on campus yet.
Okay.
Computing labs, high touch surfaces.
Okay, I see, of course. Yeah. So I guess your homework, other than trying to kind of review the document and see if you have any holes that you need to fill in this first chapter, is to finish this tutorial by extracting 2D drawings and do a full dimensioning of the parts, all the parts. I'd like you to extract, you know, sections, elevations, and also use Make 2D to extract, you know, a couple shots from different angles in perspective, and create like a 2D drawing, basically, to finish this tutorial.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.
All right. You have a great week.
See ya. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.